to make sure that everybody can hear clearly. Welcome. Can everybody hear clearly? In the chat, can you hear clearly? Is the chat responding? Huh? We good? All right. Welcome, welcome. Welcome. Welcome to our Wednesday night outreach, where I have said that I will bring Gorgeous Dre back. Let me explain before we get into it, okay? My name is Andreltaylor, and I know who I am. The Gorgeous Dre is a part of my past, right? A part of who I am too. You know, I'm Andreltaylor, and like I said when I was doing police accountability, but I use Gorgeous Dre when necessary. Sometimes I have to use Gorgeous Dre if I'm talking to somebody in the streets that I have to relate to, right? Sometimes I have to use Gorgeous Dre if I'm talking to somebody that's in a lifestyle that I come up out of, because I need to be able to relate to him. Even though I'm Andreltaylor, my father taught me never to be a one-trick pony. That anything that you've gone through in your life, you could utilize the lessons that you learned. Even if you've gone through some street activity, which I have, but you can still utilize the lessons that you learn. The scriptures say it like this: I'll turn the cursings into a blessing. So sometimes you might go through some adverse situations, street stuff, prison or whatever, but you learn some lessons through those hard situations. And because you learned a lesson, even though it was an adverse situation, it benefited you. And so some of the lessons that I've learned about women, about manhood, I utilize through real life situations. I always say, if something has been tested, if it has been proven, and if it has worked before, it's something qualified to give your life for, right? If it has been tested, if it has been proven, and if it has worked before, it qualifies, it's something that qualifies to give your life for. So I'm not talking to you today out of things that I heard from somebody. I'm talking to you out of things that I've had to go through: tragedy, mistakes, errors, setbacks, successes, and what I learned through all those things. I always tell people I didn't get here through successes. I got here through failures and learning through those failures, right? A lot of people, when I was mentoring, and I still mentor now, I do consultations, and there are many different type of people that reach out to me. And people feel free to talk to me about deep things that they don't feel free to talk to other people about. Because they probably feel like I done gone through some real tragic stuff and some real deep stuff and some real sinful stuff. How is he going to judge me? And when I was doing life coaching and mentoring, it made it easier because of my own past to allow people to open up to me, to share with me what they were into, what they had come from, some things that they had done, because they believed that I was able to help them overcome their tragedies, overcome their mistakes, because I was able to overcome my own. So I just wanted to put that out there, because I'm gonna take you back to some of the things that Gorgeous Dre learned. One of the things in American Pimp that I said is that you got to be a man before you are anything. And I have just been listening for a long time of the voices out there, because there's many, many different voices out there. And a lot of these people are people that really haven't gone through some of the things that I have gone through to give you some of the information, because I've gone through those situations. A lot of people are just talking. Some people have gone through some things, but there's a lot of junk food out there. That's what social media is filled with, is junk food. But I want to pose a question before we start going into it. Do you think anything of significance is readily given? What do you mean by that, Dre? What do you mean readily given? Do you think anything that holds any weight to it, you could just pick up so easily? Well, that's what that junk food social media has done, is it made you believe that it was accessible to you. What was accessible to you? The game. All the game is knowledge. My father used to say that knowledge with a flair. It made you believe that knowledge, the game, is just easily accessible. All you have to do is just turn on a computer and somebody is out there teaching you and telling you about some game, mostly on how to get a woman. That's what it's about. So much of the internet is men trying to discover, how do I bag a female? How do I get a woman? And you got all these guys out here telling you how you get a woman. Well, the first thing I want to tell you is how to be a man, because the woman will go with the territory. What you mean by that, Dre? Well, a lot of guys used to ask me, man, when you was in the lifestyle, what were you telling the women that were with you? What were you telling them women? Because I was successful. In my time, in those 90s, I believe the 90s I owned. I believe in the 90s, that was my time, right? But what were you telling these females? And I would tell them, well, I wasn't talking about any money. And that was hard for a lot of people to accept. I have a friend that was an American pimp named Payroll. He passed away last year. Rest in peace, Payroll. Well, one day, Payroll called me, and Payroll said, Dre, man, me and a lot of PIs were sitting around talking about you, and we were saying, what is Dre telling these females? And so he said, Dre, man, what you telling these females? I said, well, Payroll, I'm not going to tell you what I was telling them, but I'm going to tell you what I wasn't telling them. I wasn't talking to them about no money. And being in the lifestyle that I was in, it was hard for him to believe that I wasn't focused on just some money. But remember, in American Pimp, I said before you're anything, you have to be a man. So let's start right there. Well, what is a man? Some people think that you become a man when you're 18 years old. What is a man? If that's what you should be first, before anything else, don't you think that it would be important to find out what a man is? Because a lot of you never had any fathers, and some of your fathers didn't know what a man was. They just thought that man was just a gender. I said a man is not a gender. A man is a position. Did you hear what I said? I said a man is a position. Now remember, I said in American Pimp, you've got to be a man first, right? So in essence, you got to hold this position first. If manhood to me is a position, well, what do you mean, Dre, that manhood is a position? Well, right? What are the certain things that are required of you in order for you to hold that position or that office or that occupation of a doctor? You can't just come off the streets and say that I'm a doctor. There are certain qualifications that you have to have, indeed, for you to have that MD after your name. You can't just pop up one day and say, I'm a doctor. Well, that's what manhood is. A manhood says there are certain things that you need to qualify for being such man, right? Which is why in American Pimp, I said you have to be a man of integrity, of character, right? You remember those things? And somebody probably was saying, well, what does the pimping got to do with character and principles and integrity? Everything. Everything. Because it wasn't just the pimping, it was the man. It was the man that was the focus. Integrity, character, honor, all these things is what was significant to me because what my father taught me, right? Do you know that right now, everything is geared on who and how you can get the money? But I sent you something, D. What did I send you here? The top. You ain't got to say it out loud, but let me see. Okay, let me go here. Thank you, D. I'm gonna come back to you. I wanted to write down some bullet points. So I wanted to show you manhood was a position, and then I wanted to skip over to what people think a man is a person that might have some money because the money gives them influence over environments and women. So people's focus will be, I got to get the money because I've seen having the money will get me a female, the low hanging fruit female. What is a low hanging fruit female? A low hanging fruit female is a female that's only concerned about your money, not what you look like, not how fat you are, not even what you're doing. As long as you got some money, she is a low hanging fruit, right? So in order to get that low hanging fruit from your perspective, because you've seen other guys with some money get the low hanging fruit, right? And so that's would be your focus. Everything to get this money, only to get this low hanging fruit. I want you to remember that low hanging fruit, right? The low hanging fruit means anybody can get the low hanging fruit. What is special about the low hanging fruit? What's the low hanging fruit again, Dre? The girl that will be with you no matter what you look like, no matter what you're doing, as long as you have some money. That's the low hanging fruit, right? So that's where you are in your life, and that's what you see. You see the most important thing is to get some money because the money makes you a man. How do you know? Because I got all the women. So if I can get the money, I can get all the women, and that surely makes me a man. But it doesn't, but we'll get there, right? The low hanging fruit. Get the money, get the money. But you only have vision for the money. You don't have vision beyond the money. Listen, I'm going to take you somewhere real quick. You don't have vision beyond the money. Because somebody might say, well, what is there beyond the money? Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about, that manhood. That's what I'm talking about. I wanted to open you up to make you start thinking a little bit, right? Is there something beyond the money? Yes. Because when you have vision beyond the money, there's one thing that you are not trying to get, and that's the low-hanging fruit. When your vision is money, because it makes you accessible to the low-hanging fruit, because you've seen other people with money have access to the low-hanging fruit. But there are levels to this thing. There is vision beyond the money where you are not looking for low-hanging fruit. You're looking at the fruit that's not accessible, that's not just for everybody, that everybody just can't pick. And that environment requires something more than you having some money. Why? Why, chat? Why is that environment? Why does that environment require something of you more than you having money? Who can answer that? Is somebody in the chat answering it? My men up here? Can I give them a second? Right. Why does that environment, what environment? A vision beyond the money. Because you stuck at the money. Most of you are stuck at the money. Because the money gets you the low-hanging fruit. But there's a level beyond the money that the low-hanging fruit has no value. So why does that area require something more than money is the question. We're in class today.
Because money can't give you access to all areas.
Okay.
It requires certain things, certain information, certain knowledge that's hidden from those out there that value the money so much over their manhood.
Okay, that's not what it is though, but that's a good answer. But anybody in the chat?
They said freedom, life, stability, and mind power separate the weak from the conquerors. That's about it.
Okay.
Integrity.
Okay. Why does that area, the vision beyond the money, require something more than money? Any of the women got an answer? Why is money minimized in that area of vision beyond the money?
Because I would say the mind that a person has to get the money can always be gotten.
Simple, because they already got money. So all you focused on is getting the money. It limits you to low-hanging fruit, brother. It limits you to low-hanging fruit that anybody could have access to. You ain't doing nothing special. You ain't doing nothing special. But when you are in a level that requires more than your money, you got to bring something else to the table because they got more. They got money. They got probably more money than you. So your money being in that environment means absolutely nothing. You got to have what I said in the beginning. Before you anything, you got to be a man of integrity, honor, character. You see how I weave that back in? Let me give you a little testimonial. Because I'm going to take you somewhere today, but I'm challenging your mind, which is always why I'm always telling you to bring your whole mind. Let me tell you something. There are levels that you're not going to get to, most of you. Most of you are not going to get to these other levels because you're in the matrix of the importance of money. So automatically you're disqualified because that's all you can bring to the table, to the low-hanging fruit. And there's a whole bunch of people right at that level of just getting this money so I can have access to the low-hanging fruit, right? But when you get into a level, remember, a vision beyond the money, it requires something much more significant than money because the people in those levels already got the money. They're not looking at your money. They got more money than you. Way more money than you. So there are levels that it's not what you possess that determines your value. I'm about to take you somewhere. There are levels that it's not what you possess that determines your value. Watch this. Is what you build that determines your value. Oh, that's a good word. There are levels, that's that level of vision beyond the money. There are levels there, the elite level, that your value is not determined by what you possess, but by what you build. If you see Elon Musk, he's the richest man in the world, but he continues to want to build things. Listen to me. Me coming from my mom being a prostitute, my dad being a pimp, there was supposed to be no hope for me in the world. If I took on society's idea of who I was supposed to be, I would have never been anything. Thank God for my father, right? But let me tell you something because of how I was taught and what I'm trying to give you some keys to, so that you won't be in a place that you're stuck in the matrix of thinking only about the money. Now, a lot of you know that I achieved police accountability and done what nobody else has done. I brought all communities together when they killed my brother Shay Taylor in 2016. In 2 years, we changed state law, right? Last year, the first police officer in the history of Washington State, because of the law that we got changed here, was convicted of murder, went to trial, convicted, and sent to prison for 17 years because of the law that I got changed, right? So now it is effective and it has worked. The first in the history of Washington State. But how I was able to do it is what I'm trying to teach you today. The vision beyond the money, where you've got to be a man first, what I said in American Pimp. Because when you're in those environments, when you're at those tables, right? I always say if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, right? If you're not having something other than what you think money is, it holds no value in those tables, right? Remember, I said there are areas and levels that your value is not determined by what you possess. Even the Bible says, how does it say it? A man's life is not valued by the things that he possesses. Paraphrasing, same thing. The abundance of a man's life does not consist of the things that he possesses. It's a spiritual principle. The abundance of a man's life does not consist from the things that he possesses, but all you are taught, all you are sold is to possess, to possess, to possess. Low-hanging fruit. That's what you're told. So that's the only thing you're focused on, to possess. While I'm telling you that in these higher echelons, your value is not determined by what you possess, but by what you build, right? Okay, so now I build a whole campaign. Right? So now when I come before the system, I have built something. And it is what I have built that becomes my voice. And it becomes my value. Listen to me. Some of you ain't gonna get it, but I'm only here for the remnant. It is what I built that have become my value, my essence, my voice, and what I have built becomes who I am in that level. Again, there are levels that your value is not determined by what you possess. Stop. Strong stop. Mostly all of our wealthy individuals in our communities only focus on the most part on possessing. Who is building? Who in our communities is building something? I remember when I was maybe 10 years old, there used to be this little hardware store, right? Down on Othello and Rainier. It's still there. It's still there in Seattle to this day. That little hardware store is still there to this day. And I was 10 years old when I remember. In our communities, it's all about what you possess. And those Jews and them white boys and them other Asians, it's all about what they build. Because they understand there's a different language. There's a different language of the possessors and the builders. There's a different language that is spoken. And when you come to the table with possessions, you don't speak the language of the elites. And no matter what you've possessed, you look small. I'm talking to you. I know what I'm talking about because everybody was wondering, how did you, being a pimp, how did you, coming from a pimp and a prostitute as parents, how did you achieve what you achieved? How is it that you continue to be relevant after all these years, still relevant? How? Because of what I'm trying to share with you. So when I built the campaign, it became who I was. I did not have to convince anybody because it's what I built that made the billionaires and all these other organizations get involved under my leadership. It is what I built that signified to them that I knew what I was talking about. It wasn't what I possess. Do you understand? What you have to understand is that you don't know how to play. This is a word we use in the streets. You got to play for it. My father used to say, bring the game. Play for something is not deceit or something. It is having enough information to maneuver to be able to get what you're trying to get accomplished. You got to play for it, right? And that was something that was used a lot when I was growing up. Boy, you got to play for this, right? You got to play for that, play for this and play for that, right? Which means develop enough information to accomplish the objective, right? So now here I am operating with police accountability, and I got to play now. Oh, I'm playing right. I got to play. I got to bring the game, like my dad say. What am I going to use? Am I just going to use the possession game? Don't work here. You got to bring something else. You got to play now, Dre. You understand? So now I build, right? And through my building, no matter what they thought I came from, right? Because while I was there, they kept trying to see the pimp. I hadn't been in a game for many years when I did police accountability. Do you realize this? I'm going to tell you guys this. I haven't been in a pimp life since 1998. Do you realize that? Do you realize that I haven't been into the pimp life since 1998? 28 years that I haven't been involved in that life? Because some of you guys think the game is the pimp life. You're badly mistaken. The pimp life might be 7% of the game. I stopped that life a long time ago, but I always am playing. I'm always operating in the game, the playing, to develop enough information and knowledge to be able to maneuver through life. That's the plan, that's the game, that's the knowledge. I'm always utilizing the game, but the reason why you see a lot of my contemporaries stuck. You don't see nobody doing what I've done. There's a lot of people that have done a lot of great things in the game. I own the 90s. Some people own the 2000s. Some people own the 2010s and up. Some people own the 80s. Some people own the 70s. I own the 90s, right? And like I said, there's a lot of people out there that's done some phenomenal things in the game, but they're not builders. Woo! Woo! Come on, man. They're not builders. Oh, they're just possessors. And so you could see everybody seems to have stopped and plateaued. No one's building anything because the building process looks less attractive than what you possess. The building process looks less attractive, but it only looks less attractive to the low-hanging fruit. Boy, I'm teaching you guys some heavy stuff. That's the truth. The building process looks less attractive to the low-hanging fruit. But you don't build to attract the low-hanging fruit. You build to play on the elite level where you can change laws like me. Listen, I said I was in the pimp game and you get girls and all this kind of stuff. But that was before 1998, right? But I kept the game alive. So when I built the campaign and ran it, led it, now I got to deal with some very powerful women and men, senators, police chiefs, congresswomen who are unimpressed with what you possess. You got to bring something else to the table. I've got to deal with them. I got to play for them. Now remember, the plan is not deceit. It's not trickery. It's knowledge. Developing enough knowledge to be able to overcome and maneuver and accomplish the objective, right? So now I got to bring what I told you in American Pimp. You got to be a man before you're anything. I had to bring that in order to play for people on that level to come and support what I was doing. There had to be something else that was attractive to that level because it wasn't attractive to the low-hanging fruit, but I wasn't playing for the low-hanging fruit. I'm playing in the elite level. And it's what I know that is helping me to maneuver. And because of what I built, I became attractive. Do you understand? To this level, to the elite level. Attractive enough for them, even though they knew all those years ago that I was a pimp, that my mama was a hoe and my daddy was a pimp. Even though I came out the mud and out the gutter, they couldn't see any of that. Because remember, they only seen what I built. Boy, if you guys don't get this right here, man. They only seen what I built, which is what I'm trying to explain to many of you. Many of my contemporaries have stopped because they don't have what I'm revealing to you today. They don't understand that concept. They have stopped, right? And like I said, I love my brothers out there and they, trying to do their things. The older dudes are still trying to do the little players' balls and all that. That's great. I mean, try to get them a little money or whatever. I think that's great, right? My daddy would be rolling in his grave if I was still in the same place I was 30 years ago. My father would feel all the knowledge and information I gave you was for nothing because I taught you to be a conqueror. I gave you the game on manhood. And it's a world connected to that, son. It's a world connected to manhood. And I gave you that. And I got high expectations of you. Go through what you got to go through, but don't stop. Don't never be a one-trick pony. And what I'm trying to explain to you today, what I'm sharing with you, if you get this thing, now remember, the challenge is you're not going to be celebrated as much from the low-hanging fruit. But you got to get out of that arena. If I was still trying to fruit, I wouldn't have been able to attract the elite women that I needed to help me bring forth police accountability. I couldn't have attracted that. They would not have supported me in getting the job done. People always wonder how I did it. I'm explaining to you how I did it because I had the game on building. And then after I completed that, I wanted to build the remnant. Build the remnant because I'm still playing. Woo! I'm still playing, baby. See, you looking for low-hanging fruit, not me. I'm not looking for low-hanging fruit. I'm playing for something real bigger than that. Much bigger than that. But everything got to look appropriate. Y'all know the story about the Queen of Sheba coming to visit Solomon? Y'all know that story? But for you who don't know it, the Queen of Sheba had heard about the wisdom of Solomon. And she wanted to come check him out. And she came and she checked him out. Right? And she said, yes, I heard about your wisdom and, and everything about you. And she says, I haven't been told. As much as I've heard about you, a half of it hasn't been told because I'm seeing with my own eyes, right? That you got everything intact. It wasn't Solomon alone that made him attractive to the Queen of Sheba. Because if you read the text begins to talk about how all his men were proper. Everything that he had built was in order. And she alluded to the fact that what he had built, because she was seeing him through what he built, not what he possessed. She saw Solomon through what he built. Don't you understand? There's a lot of guys out there, some of the little dudes that have listened to me that I love them. I loved them. But they don't have the game. Now they will have it. Now you will see probably a zillion guys out there talking about building now. because that's what they do. They hear me and they go try to sell you on this. And now they want to sell a class and all this. But you remember where you got it from. They could say it, but they haven't lived it, and they lack the real nutrients of the game. You didn't know there was nutrients in the game? Oh, yeah. You've been eating stale food, all that junk food out there. People been selling you that it's all about what you possess. Oh, boy, just get as much as you can get. Possess. Everything about me is build. When you get a woman, you want to possess her. When I get a woman, I want to build her. We got two different thought process. That's why you see longevity in my life. Dove and I have been together, married almost 30 years. She's built, though. Come on. Hold on till you get the mic.
Okay.
Dove said,
Yeah, I just got this download while I was speaking, and when I really was just sitting here thinking about being built, the Holy Ghost gave me, now, mind you, when I first met my husband, we talked for a whole week, right? Before he even came to my house. Now, he was honest, told me about what was going on in his life, the women that was still with him and everything, and I did not care. Because what I understood that what he was telling me was what he had built, right? And even though he told me, you know, the police was looking for him and all that stuff, I still didn't care. Because when he finally came to my house and we was able to spend that quality time together, the phone was quality within itself. When he finally said, all I want is a woman who would listen to me and do what I say, it was easy for me to say I can do that, because what I was really looking for was to be empowered and built. And I didn't even realize that I was listening to him and his women and his life and everything, and I couldn't believe that he still loved all his exes and they were still friends. It was just unbelievable to me. So when he was like, you know, all I want is a woman that will listen to me and do what I say, I said, I could do that. That's easy, because everything that comes along with that, knowing who I'm gonna be at the end of the day, you got it, right? You got everything. You got everything. You have not only undivided attention, you have my submission and obedience, because I know I'm gonna be straight powerful. And I knew that he was going to build me into the same thing he built his other women in, especially if I adapted to my God, who is his God, right? So when you look at built, which is something that is created, something that's resurrected, something that's raised up, something that's set up, right? Something that's created. All my life, all I wanted was to be created and have self-value. And what you women don't understand is that when you have somebody who knows how to build, they don't just know how to build in one area. The information allows every single area to be built, because even though I knew he was going to go to jail, I knew that he wasn't going to have the things that he possessed before us. They were all stripped. That didn't matter to me, because I definitely knew the mind that he had could get that again 10 times over. And even if he didn't, it didn't matter, because it was that power, that mental ability, the game, the information that built that. So I knew anything was possible with this man. Anybody else that I was with in my past, I knew it was impossible, because I had lived through what? Always chasing the bag, always chasing the money, not knowing how to build in your relationship. Never in a million years would the indoctrinated man be able to have 2 wives, 3 wives, or 4 or 5 at that, because they too busy trying to chase the bag. They can't even build a woman up to where she's supposed to be at, to be able to sustain. You got to have a woman who knows how to sustain, to be able to have another wife around and then another wife. And not only that, to be able to be around the elite people running this world. Because the people running this world are not looking at tools. They're not looking at the bag. And when I say tools, I mean sex, They're not looking at you feeling like you could sex somebody down or go give them $1,000 to go buy a purse or some makeup, right? Because at the end of the day, after that's over with, after the sex, once y'all finish, it's a done deal. That feeling is gone, right? And then you off looking for the next thing. This mind that can build, it don't stop. Nothing can stop this mind that could build, right? So when my husband was talking, I was going back and I was like, all those things that he was talking to me about had already empowered me, and I didn't even realize it. I didn't realize that the information I was given, why was it different, right? Because he was not just talking about himself. He was talking about what he had done as far as women and empowering women and building women. And it wasn't just like I built this woman. It was like who I had this woman over here. She's capable. You know, she's this, and all the women I've been with, this, that, and the other. It wasn't about self. It wasn't about me. And I was like, dang, I didn't realize. I was like, I need that. I got to have that, because as a matter of fact, I did not value myself whatsoever. I had zero value in myself. And when he came, it changed everything. So when I was listening to him, I'm like, dang, I didn't realize that I wanted to be built. And I knew I needed to be created. There was something in me dying to flourish, and I didn't know how to get it out. I didn't have anybody around me to give me any information on how to rise up out of the pit that I was in at the time. And it was a deep pit. It's going to take the Most High in this information, which is the game, to be able to pull you up out of that. And it's a lot of people out here. There's been people come to the remnant, they get this information, women and men, and then they leave knowing how empowered they were with this information. And then they go back into the indoctrination, questioning themselves. Like, I don't think, and I don't know. I can tell you one thing, when you built up under this information, ain't no I don't knows. Ain't no I thinks and buts, because it ain't about nobody else. It's about you. And that's what I love about my husband, because he raised me on it's about you. It's about self-value. My value is not predicated on him. It's predicated on me and how I take this information and how I choose to continue in my walk and build, right? It's an application that I must do, not him. He can give me the information all day long, but if I don't apply it, I can never be empowered. But I am empowered, right? So I was thinking about that. And honey, I appreciate you and I love you, because just that, I was thinking that, because I know all his exes, everybody is the same. Everybody was built the same. Everybody was given that love, and everybody was taught how to love themselves, right? He raised a women with that awareness of self. Now, when they left, it might have been a different story, but on the most part, if you stick with this information, you are definitely going to be built. You're going to be empowered, and you're going to be able to walk in your empowerment. So thank you, babe.
Thank you, baby. This is good testimony. So let me just say this real quick, because I need to cover this part. I said earlier, do you think anything significant can come from like low-hanging fruit? Like if anybody has access to certain information, right? Like, why is it that you think that anything that is elite in the world requires a certain level of commitment, a certain level of struggle, and of challenge? I often say this, that there are military people, but then there are Navy SEALs and there are elite service people. And there is a criteria to meet that elite level, and everybody doesn't meet it, right? What it requires, what it takes. So why is it that you think you can just turn on the social media and this is constantly, this junk food is constantly being served to you, and you think that it's just that easy? It is not. Because let's go back to what I said, that you first have to be a man. And I said it is a position that requires certain things, right? One of those things that it requires is integrity, right? I said honor, integrity, character. These things matter. I used to tell my dad used to tell me, he used to say, pursue honor, son. Everything else is practice. I grew up as a young 8, 9, 10 years old. My dad talking to me like that. Pursue honor, son. Everything else is practice. What does that mean? Well, the money has, what it's done is it's distorted you. The scripture declares that it's a spiritual principle. I've said that earlier, and I'll get back to that the love of money is the root of all evil. All right? Church people, they Christians, they say it, let me break it down. Let me break it down where it becomes a reality to you. See, when you really understand the idea of this position that you have been given as a man, it becomes something so elevated in your life. Manhood is not elevated to the majority of these guys in the community because they jeopardize manhood, they jeopardize this integrity, they jeopardize this honor, they jeopardize this character on a daily basis. Why? To get the low-hanging fruit. So the low-hanging fruit becomes more important than your idea of what a man is, right? Like you lie, you connive, you cheat, because you really don't understand the value, the power that you possess as a man. God himself said, I created men for my pleasure. God himself said that? You think he's talking about these males today? Laughable. Well, what kind of man is God talking about that he finds pleasure in this kind of man? Is it a man that lies and the man that's deceitful? A man that doesn't build? A man that has elevated money and sex and low-hanging fruit above the idea of what he considers a man to be? Surely it's not that. So this is the hard part. This is the Navy SEAL part that I want to talk to you about. What you can't do in order to be a man. What you can't do. You can't lie. I done disqualified 90% of the people right now. 90%, y'all done fell off. You can't lie. And it's not a struggle. See, when you begin to understand the value of who you are, you become empowered, and then the lie becomes beneath who you are. I didn't lie in the game. I haven't lied now. Right? You can't lie because it's beneath you as a man. But you got to understand manhood because that won't click to you. Because you've been taught by the oppressor because they have utilized every wicked way to get in position. And because they have used every wicked way to get in position, that's something you look up to. Well, surely if these white folks done, did pillage the land, raped the women, and did all the things to get into position that they're in, surely that's how you get into position. Well, there's a spiritual principle that the only way to overcome evil is with good. That sounds really generic, doesn't it? But it's really, really powerful. But you got to understand what good is. That's why we go back to the man. Integrity, character, and honor. There are certain things you cannot do in order to be this man. And this man is good. He's a good man, right? I don't have women in my past that says that I was a bad person, that I lied to them. I don't have that. I have a documentary called Master of the Game that I did when I got out of prison that brought some of my ex-women. Some were in the game with me and some weren't in the game with me. And all of them, they weren't with me when they came and did Master of the Game. But they all testified the same. So I don't have a legacy of being an individual that a woman can't stand and detest because I was underhanded, because I used her, manipulated her in any capacity, even though I was in the game. Because the game is the truth. Anything that starts being adverse to the truth is not the game anymore, the knowledge anymore. It becomes deception and it becomes usury. And there's a lot of people that claim to be in the game that operate in deception and usury. I remember somebody was telling me about the 48 laws of power way back when, and it says a lot of things about how to maneuver in a deceptive way. I used to tell people, it's not like those things don't work. But whatever a man sows, that shall he reap. So it's not like you get away from taking advantage of somebody. It might play out in your children. It might play out in other areas of your life. You might not know why this keeps happening to you, but you can't trace it back to how you treated them two women that you was with and how you done lied and manipulated your way and used somebody, and now you crying about why your life continues to go in circles. You do not get away. But if you look at my life, I came on the scene in American Pimp, but I was already gorgeousdre before American Pimp. Hence, they hired me to do as the technical advisor for American Pimp. My credits are at the end of the movie. Rosebud's credit is in there because they had first dealt with Rosebud before they even got to me, right? And I think Rosebud told him about my father and told him about Shantae and Bishop or whatever. But when they got to me and they brought him over to the mansion, they said, I've seen nobody in the game that has reached this pinnacle of the life that you're at. This is what they told me. You could ask them. Will you help us? I said, I don't know. And then Alan, I just want to give you a little history. Alan Hughes said to me, before you decide no, let me tell you this, Dre. I said, what? He said, everything that's done on film goes down in history. And I said, history? Hold on now. Yeah, that appealed to me. I said, history? I said, yeah, I think I can do this. They hired me, gave me $15,000 to be the technical advisor. And they weren't giving anybody any more money that was being placed in the movies. And I told them in the film, the documentary film, and I told them, yes, I know you ain't giving nobody no money, but for the people that I will bring into the film, you're gonna have to give at least $1,000, even though I know you don't give money for documentaries. But these people, you're gonna have to give at least $1,000. So everybody that I put in, Fillmore Slim, Charm, and like 90% of the people I put in American Pimp, I made them give them $1,000 when they wasn't giving nobody else any money. That's just the truth, right? So what am I saying? I'm saying that all these years, when I came on the scene, right, to the world, not to the community of the game, but to the world, when American Pimp, I think it went to the Sundance Film Festival in 2000, won all these awards. Then it went to actual movie theaters, but it didn't have a major theatrical release. It was like a handful of movie theaters actually around the country. It was released through Seventh Art, a small distribution house, right? And so it came to Seattle, was in a movie theater here in New York and LA. It was in the actual big screen, right? So now here I am. From that point forward, you guys saw when I was facing prison, you saw my disposition when I said that if they think that them bringing me to jail is going to strip me from being the man that I am, then they're badly mistaken. So I want to go to that statement because this wasn't a movie, this was a documentary movie that was real life. But notice how I said, even though I was facing life, that if they think them bringing me to jail is going to strip me from being the man that I am, the position that I am, then they're badly mistaken, which goes to show you the high level of manhood, right? How I had elevated it to such a high level. Because I said, if they think that this situation, as crucial as it is, even though I'm facing life, even that doesn't scare me. And what I think about being a man is even more important than the possibility of me going to prison forever. Right? So now I've carried that all these years and have been relevant all these years, more consistent than anybody all these years. Continue to reinvent myself, continuing to be current and relevant all these years, continuing to look gorgeous as my name, right? Having a wife and a new wife. Come here, honey. I just want to show you something. Come on, be careful of that cord. and a new wife, right? She said something in one of her testimonies that was real, real powerful, and I kind of wanted her to repeat it because she was saying something to the fact that her observation of Dove and I's relationship, and you can take it from there. You remember what you was talking about?
Before us getting together, me having the advantage to see how, to be able to see your relationship, right? And even the, even with the building part, when Deb was talking, I was thinking about that as well. Even seeing that as something for myself, right? Even when, in our beginning, when I had the decision to make to whether or not if I wanted to be with Andre, right? Like I said, it was me being able to see the relationship, their marriage, longevity, and, also seeing that I too could be built up, right? From where I was and, the insecurities and just, being at a place now to where I know for a fact if I didn't have a man like Andre, I would not be where I'm at today, right? Just mentally, in every area, right? And yeah, I
And we're expecting our new son, Tamim. He's going to be here next month. We're very, very excited. Just to give you hope, right?
yes.
This manhood continues to reinvent itself, brings youth to you, because a lot of you are old because of your bad attitude. That's what ages you, right? But when you understand about these things that I'm telling you, you still have access to everything. And I've continued to be consistent all these years, regardless of what anybody says. Doesn't really matter, right? Because I always say people can bring their words to the table. I'll bring my work, my evidence, right? What I have built to the table, right? Because that's significant. Love you.
Yes, I love you.
Thank you. Careful. All right. That's a hand clap. You men want to share something?
Yeah.
Come on. How you feeling?
You ready?
I said, I build.
What's up?
I am what I build.
Let me see. I got two mics. Yeah. Let me get right. Let me holler at y'all for a second, man. Yeah. So I was sitting there thinking, man, just about how just the way that I came into the information. I often said this before, it wasn't women that brought me into the information. And I say it because I've always had, the confidence at getting at a woman. So it wasn't that wasn't the case, but I don't say that in like to elevate something or like, yeah, I get women or something. That's not the point that I'm getting at with that, because I want to go somewhere with why I'm saying that. When I was younger, when I was a little kid, it was a little timidity in me at getting at women, right? And it was when I got to high school, it just something clicked. The confidence clicked, right? And so that was what drove me, to get at a woman, that confidence. But I want to go somewhere because of what we're talking about tonight. The tricks have tools. That's the title of the class, right? And so, as I got a little older and I'm starting to have experiences, right, with women, it was compromises that occurred as a youngin', right? And listen to me. So, I'm gonna tell a little story. When you younger, right? When we younger, we be trying to get at chicks and all that. And so it's like some cats will do anything. You might have a little chick you dealing with or something like that, and you try to sneak over to a crib or something like that, right? I know cats done been there. And one time I did this, right? And my homeboy, he took me over there and whatnot. And so it was a chick, she lived with her father. And so her father was there, right? And so, I'm trying to sneak into this house to, do what I'm trying to do with her, right? And so going into the house, I'm sneaking into the back door. And, as I'm trying to get to her room, her father's door is open. He in the room sleep now. And you got to think about this. This young kid, he trying to go into this house to be with this man's daughter. You don't know what that man would have did if he would have woke up. You know what I'm saying? And you sneaking into his house, you could have got shot, anything, right? And these is the things that these young men do just to get at what's between a woman's legs, right? And so as you get older and you not having that manhood, you still operating in that compromise, right? Because that was a compromise. I could have compromised my life that night, right? But as we get older and we become grown men, now we may be having some money, these tools, we might have tools and things like that. And that compromise elevates, you know what I'm saying, to people sacrificing their marriages and stuff like that, and sacrificing their money, their seed, just to operate in that pool and get at women within that pool, right? You know what I'm saying? And so, it made me think, because what I know that I was missing was that manhood. That's why I said earlier, it wasn't something that I'm, elevating the confidence that I had. It was the manhood that was missing. That was what was missing in my life. You know what I'm saying? And, just getting into the information and knowing what I'm missing and being able to operate in that, I got my woman, she's my wife. You know what I'm saying now? And we have been together since, we both lived in Nashville together, and she followed me to Miami. We went down there together, you know what I'm saying? And getting into the information, because I always had that confidence. That confidence was there, right? It wasn't about no money. She's been there through thick and thin, whether I had something or I didn't, and I didn't have much when we first got together. But, when I made the decision to come to Seattle and she was still in Miami, she's still living there, right? You got to think about, if people been in Miami, you know how it is in Miami. You know the vibes out there in Miami. It's a lot of tricks with tools out there, right? So it's something that was being operated in that made her eventually come here, because she's now here with me in Seattle. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't no money that brought her here. It wasn't no something that, something that was tangible that I'm possessing to make her make that transition to continue to be with me, to continue to follow me. It was this manhood. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of you cats, man, you can't even get a chick to follow you to the liquor store. You know what I'm saying? She tell you go do that, come back, I'll be right here. She ain't even messing with you like that. So it had to be something that was operated in for that to transpire. And it was that manhood. That's what made that occur. So when you cats is out here operating and still choosing to feel you gotta use these tools, and that compromise has elevated, since you was a youngin', you doing the same things. Because I know I wasn't the only cat that had made those type of decisions just to get at a woman, and just to do something that would last only so long. You know what I'm saying? That compromise is elevated, within your life. But it's all good. Everybody in the world, majority of the people in the world, not this remnant, you know what I'm saying? That's what they're after. That money, that sex. And it's like, well, if I got this, you got that. Let's go. That's the vibe of what's going on in the world. And all these cats online, they're just elevating, for you to get that. That's it. That's all you deciding to go after. You know what I'm saying? You ain't trying to conquer nothing. It was a class that we talked about, that I like to bring about. If it ain't got what he said, if they ain't talk about no conquering, why would you go F with that? You know what I'm saying? What's the point of you going to do that, to do something that is only lasting for so long? You know what I'm saying? What can you do after you done had so many women and did this and that? What do you get from that? What is the old age, the experiences that you had, what's the conquering in that? You know what I'm saying? So we after conquering, we after governing over here. You know what I'm saying? And operating in this manhood, that's how you able to do that. You know, so that's what I wanted to share,
All
man.
praise. Good job. So we'll have a couple more come up. Let me just say this. I always say that words have worlds. Listen to me. The remnant hears this often. Words have worlds. It's not just a word. There is a world connected to the words that you are saying, right? So there is a world of loving vagina. There is a world of loving money. There is a world of loving manhood as well. And everybody that's operating in each one of these worlds operate differently. Your primary intents are different. I want to break it down for you, okay? I said there's a world of loving vagina, a world of loving money, and a world of loving manhood. I've said this before in one of the classes. I teach conquering. This is what I teach. Everywhere I go to conquer, right? There is a different mentality of a conqueror, and there's a different mentality of a rich man, and there's a different mentality of a gangster. Follow me. I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. A gangster wants you to know that he's so down that he's willing to take your life. He's not to be trifled with. A gangster. Wherever he goes, he wants fear. He wants to be respected. A wealthy man learns about money and capitalism. He moves different from the gangster. There's certain things a man whose world is money, things he would not do that the gangster would do because it would jeopardize his money, right? There's a different world that he lives in. And then there's a different world of the conqueror. The conqueror will not move like the person who loves money or the gangster. And I've said this before. I want you to understand this. I said that America is an empire, and it is operated like empires have throughout history. What do you mean, Dre? Well, empires have conquered lands and people throughout history. America have conquered lands and people. Our people are here because we were a conquered people. We were taken from some place. Some believe that we were here. Don't matter. Whether you was here or brought here, you were still conquered. Right? I said America operates like a conqueror. They are an empire and they conquer, right? So there's a disposition about how conquerors move, right? And when I was doing police accountability, I would talk to these Black organizations out here and I would tell them, why do you keep asking why the system keep doing to you what they're doing? They'd be mad at me. What you mean? They wrong. They shouldn't be doing this. It ain't fair. Yeah. And I would say, listen, man, they got into the position doing it to you. You crying, thinking that they are going to give you some mercy when they got into the position of power conquering you. You can't approach them asking them, why do they keep doing it? They're going to keep doing it because it continues to advantage them. That's not how I beat them. I didn't beat them by asking why. I beat them by knowing who they were and the world that is associated with the mind of a conqueror. What is that world? They respect power. So when I was doing police accountability, I wanted to build power. That is a term when you're building a campaign that is used primarily in the white world, not so much our world, not in the Black community. Building power. It is a key word in campaigns. You got to build power, right? So I built power by going to every community, the Latino community, the Asian Pacific Islander community, the Native community. I went to all these different communities and said, listen, they've been whooping us individually, but they can't beat us together. Will you follow my leadership? And all the communities chose to follow my leadership. So now I got every community supporting me. And I got the unions supporting me. So now when we go before the law enforcement, we're not asking them. We're not saying, will you stop doing this to us? We have power now, and we're telling them what we want done. Do you understand? The mind, I'm going somewhere. I just wanted to kind of give you that backstory. The mind of a conqueror, right? So now I built power. Now I'm coming to say, this is what we want done. Are we going to vote you out of here? We're going to get you out of here because now we got power. So now they got to listen. And it's not us saying, will you please appease us? Will you please do this? No, that's not how you operate with an empire. You understand? So they respected the power that I had built, the mind that I had as a conqueror, right? Not the victim. They did not respect the victim because you are supposed to be a victim as far as they're concerned, right? To the victor comes the spoils. So there are white men of power that believe if they have conquered, they have a right to make the laws the way they want to make them, even if they favor them, to make everything that favors them. Because we conquer, to the victor goes the spoils. That's the mindset. Do you understand? Okay, so you can't beat them with a victim's disposition because you're supposed to be a victim. We conquered you, right? Just wanted to give that to you. So let me go back to the gangster, the wealthy man, and the conqueror, and why I teach how to be a conqueror and the mindset of a conqueror. I said, I want you to realize, and I tell my men that and the women here, that every empire that entered into a country to take it over, I said, when the conqueror comes to that country to take over, there are many gangsters in that country. There are many wealthy people in that country, but they're no match when the conqueror comes. That's good word. Do you understand? There is a whole world that you're not privy to because you've never conquered nothing in your life. So you don't have any point of references to pull from. You only know how to be a victim. That's why you cry the way you do. That's why you complain. My dad was telling me one time there's a book about this golfer, I forget his name, and he was a great golfer, and he became ill, and he had to get in a wheelchair, right? And they were interviewing him one day. They were saying, man, oh man, how you feel about this, that, and the other? And, talking about that he can't golf the way he wants to anymore. And my father said, well, you got to play the ball where it lands. You got to in golf, play the ball where it lands. In other words, regardless of the circumstance or the situation, there is enough information that is contained within the world that you could play the ball where it lands. I'm born from a pimp and a prostitute. Play the ball where it land. I didn't have my father. Play the ball where it land. My parents left me. Play the ball where it land. I didn't have no friends. Play the ball where it land. I wasn't popular. Play the ball where it land. I might not be cute to somebody else. Play the ball where it land. I come up out of poverty. Play the ball where it land. I don't give you an excuse because we have all the answers. There is no excuse when you got all the answers. And it's not something that I'm just saying it. My life over decades confirms it. Who want to say something? I'll be back.
Oh, thank you. Oh man, being up here in a minute.
Okay.
I'm gonna talk about playing the ball where it lands.
He said, as cold as it
So
sounds.
I'm gonna talk about what I play for, right? And just playing for those things. First, I don't have like what I want to say. How I want to say that. I guess I'll just talk about just what my aim is, right? And my aim and what I'm building towards and what my focus is, right? And we playing for big stakes. That's how you say it. We playing for big stakes, right? And in the information what you are trained and developed and conditioned and cultivated to play for is big stakes, right? You don't be in the information and play small, right? You're not gonna be in the information and be playing for that that low hanging fruit, right? You don't play for that, right? Because your training and your development your training and your development trains your eye on the top, right? It trains your eye on the elite. It trains your eye on conquering, right? So like I was recently watching a class, and in the class, I think it's called I'm the Gift. It's on IG. And there's a discussion being had about like just like some behaviors, right? And some behaviors that we would never denigrate ourselves to, right? Certain dispositions we would never denigrate ourselves to, like I can't even pull something up because it's all choked out of my mind. But it's just certain things we would never do because we not playing for praise and worship from the ghetto, right? We not playing for praise and worship and applause from the ghetto, right? So it's certain things that we would never denigrate ourselves with, right? We would never. I think in the class we was kind of like talking about what was the behavior that we was talking about, like having your woman open the door for you, right? Or just stuff like that, right? We would never denigrate ourselves in by behaving that way because we know that that's not how you appeal to what our eye has been trained to aim for, right? So I'm all over the place. And my bad.
Stay focused, man. Come
So
on.
as I'm listening to my leaders speaking about it, right? Those are the things that's going through my mind, and those are the realizations that that are being confirmed to me, that are in me, that I am operating in, right? That is the build that I'm on, right? So I'm not discouraged or anything like that because I know what I'm playing for. I know what I'm aiming at. I know what my eye is trained on, right? I'm not discouraged by a lack of applause or a lack of worship or a lack of celebration by the ghetto, right? Because what I'm playing for is the top, right? So my aim and my focus is to develop my life to reflect the training and conditioning inside of me, right? My aim and my focus is to make sure my family look right, right? To make sure all my children look right, right? To make sure I carry and I conduct and I operate with character and integrity and honor, right, before the world, right? And not that it's not like it's an act. This is who I am.
Yes.
Right. This is a reflection of who I've been grown and developed to be, right? But I understand what comes with the territory is my ability to attract people who look at that and would want that in their environment, right? I know that by operating that way, those who are at the top would look at that behavior and say, I can build with that, right? I can grow with that. I would want that in my environment with me because I can trust that, right? So that be my goal, that be my aim, that be my disposition, that be the way that I go about building my life. That be the way, that be what I grow and develop my children in, right? That's the same conversations we having at home. That's the same way I wash every single one of my children in the information, right? With the same information, the same understanding, the same aim, right? We are all being trained to aim and operate the same way, to conduct ourselves the same way, right? So yeah, so I just kind of like wanted to get into that and reflect that, right? To reflect the mind that's being developed and conditioned and trained into the men here, right? And to everybody here, right? Everybody that's present, we all are focused on operating with that disposition that our leader was up here talking about. And that's all, man.
Check out your tongue. You got good? All right. So let me answer some questions in the chat. I couldn't answer them earlier. I was. A king learns how to govern, right? But if a empire is going into a land, like in the history, they've had kings. Oh, here, I don't need this thing here. They've had kings, right? A king is an individual that's trying to govern what he has. A conqueror is going to take what somebody else has. A king is just trying to govern what he has. A conqueror is about to go spread out his kingdom, like Alexander the Great. He wasn't just satisfied with his rule where he was at. He wanted to spread out, and it took a conqueror's disposition in order to do that. All right? Any other questions while I'm here? I want to answer some questions in the chat. You better get them out right now because I'm ready to help you out. I know it kind of got a delay on there, so I'll wait. Just waiting to see if anybody got any questions that I can answer for them. Or I'll move on because I know it got a delay. I think I might do a 3-week series. So I'm not going to give you everything tonight. Pull you in. See that strategy? Pull you in with some information you haven't heard before. Probably do a 3-week series. It depends on what season you're at, right? Can't you be a conqueror and a king? Well, that's what my aim is. Huh? What happened? What did he say?
It's setting the situation with your father.
Oh, you got to clear that up a little bit, and I'll answer whatever you want me to answer. Questions, and then we can move forward. I think I might do a 3-week series. Come back next week and the week after that. 3-week series on manhood. Give you some more information.
What is the best way to stay persistent?
What is the best way to
Stay persistent.
Okay, what is persistent to you? When somebody asks me a question, I always ask, what does it mean to that person? Because we might have a different idea of persistent. So what is persistent to you? Because persistent to me might be something else. And somebody else can ask a question if you want to, and I'll get back to him when he or her, I don't know if it's a man or a woman. That's it?
Someone said, how do you deal with women in the workplace?
It's such a broad question is not specific enough. How do you deal with women in the workplace? Is it a woman you're interested in? Is it women that are interested in you? Is it a problem that you're having with a woman? It's too broad. It's not specific enough. I don't know what you're asking. How do you deal with women in what capacity? It's too broad.
Someone asked, were there any attempts in your life during police accountability?
Not that I know of. Could have been.
Someone said, what's the goal of the remnant?
To conquer. Yes.
It's right here on this chair.
Yeah. The goal of the remnant is to conquer. Conquer what? Conquer inside first. Everything is inside out, right? The conquering is the indoctrination of how we've been raised in this country, told what right and wrong is, told what to value, told what to love, right? So conquering that indoctrination that's in every single one of us, that is the ultimate objective first, to get all those things out of you so that you can have an original mind and know how to operate. Do you think I was able to beat the system with the mind that the system gave me initially? No, it was with an original mind that I was able to offset them and beat them. I didn't beat them with the mind they gave me, because everybody around here is walking around with a mind that they gave you. How do I know? 1619, the first slave ships came over here, Jamestown. From 1619, I'm probably the first 20 enslaved people that got off the boat out of millions that came. They had culture, they had a way they thought about their wives, the way they thought about their God, the way they thought about their children. All that was stripped. So the first, that next 20 years, all they ever known was what was taught them. And then that next 50 years, people being born into a condition of indoctrination, right? They got to the place that slavery was instituted. It had been instituted, but I'm saying it's instituted in a way that they made you believe if you run away from this evil, you are a criminal. So you had a lot of our people feeling like they were criminals trying to run away from slavery, because that's the indoctrination. So now if they could get you to believe that you are a criminal from running away from this evil, right? And that is inside your subconsciousness. That's why a lot of you feel like criminals just being black walking around in America today. That has to get up out of you. And that takes a new information to dig those things up out of you so that you can be free, so that you won't have fear, so that you won't have the intimidation of white people or the system. Right now, most of us are intimidated by the system. That's why you could have a block of gang members, 20, 30 gang members, and one white police officer can come and all of them will scatter. That's fear. Why? Because you have seen what they've been able to do to us over these 400 years. You've seen it, right? And that is in your subconsciousness, and you know they have military might. You know that they will come and do what they've been doing to you. So unless you get that indoctrination out of you, unless you start understanding spiritual principles, what your original culture was, what God has for you, what makes you empowered, you will always be enslaved internally to these people. You will always have fear. You will never be able to face them, and you sure will never be able to defeat their system like I did. That was with an original mind. Is that it?
Someone said, I was raised around women causing a more, hold on. I was raised around women causing, let me pull it up real quick.
Hold on.
I was raised around women causing a more feminine, emotional type mindset. What can I do to turn that around?
Getting this classes. Yeah. We have classes here. We have thousands of classes on every subject. Get into class. Just what I've shared with you, just think about thousands of classes on each different subject that you're facing, that you're dealing with, and there's a class for that. But they've watered you down so much that you hate knowledge, but you love entertainment, right? While these white folks are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars going to Ivy League universities, going all over to Europe, going to Cambridge, and going to all these universities to get knowledge. But here you are scared and crying about $50 to come get information that have defeated them. What kind of sense does that make? I'm not about to pull nobody's arm and coattail or none of that stuff, right? You're going to have to value the information. These classes are only $50. I made that like that on purpose. For 4 classes a month, to get this information, that you have the evidence that I've done something. I'm not out there like everybody else talking. Who else have defeated these people? Me. Who else have done it? I don't care. Anybody out there doing some talking, because it ain't your money. I don't care. You can have more money than me. I'm not positioning myself out of money. I'm cool, but that's not my positioning, right? Because I told you the conqueror comes to a land with a whole bunch of rich people and gangsters in it and still conquers it. So our people have been so debilitated mentally that you got a problem with knowledge. Yeah, you don't like it, right? But they love it. They'll be around the corner waiting for the new Drake release, I guess, in a couple days or something. But they're around the corner waiting for a new book of knowledge. Yeah, that's a problem. So get into class around somebody that could relate to you and relate to my own experiences. At least you have the evidence of what I'm saying. Remember I said before, if it has been proven, if it is tried, and if it has worked before, it's something qualified to give your life for. Right? So I sit here as a man that has a legacy over all them years, right? Over all these years, and I have not stopped at pimping. That's what the problem is. Some of y'all stopped at pimping, just like Christians stopped at Jesus.
How do you differentiate between a woman that is a giver and a taker early in the relationship?
I wouldn't care whether she was. She's indoctrinated. What I possess is able to overcome all those things. I'm expecting her to come on. She's not ready-made. No woman comes ready-made, right? I'm not expecting a woman to come ready-made. I'm not expecting, I've said this in many classes, I'm not expecting a woman to be able to come and know everything about me. Because if a woman can just come and know everything about you, know everything to do, there's an old saying, she making you another brother's sandwich. She making you another brother's sandwich. You know what I'm saying? You ask for a sandwich and she go in there and make a sandwich. You don't even like pickles. She put pickles on there. You know, she put some Miracle Whip on there. You don't even like that. She done come made you the dude that she was with sandwich. So a woman is not coming ready-made. I don't care. I'm expecting her to have deficiencies. You don't think my wives had deficiencies? I wasn't worried about that. I'm capable. If you stay down, I'm able to accommodate whatever those deficiencies are. That's conquering. That's manhood.
There's a young lady in here with a question. Where'd she go?
This one.
Yes. When in the salting process, multiple people from the past who violate you come back in your life, how does the Most High want you to handle that?
Okay, let me see if I get this. When in the salting process,
When you're in the salting process.
when you're in the salting process, and multiple people, say it again,
From the past.
from the past,
Who violates you.
who violated you,
Come back in your life.
come back in your life.
How does the Most High want you to handle that?
That's kind of hard for me because you've allowed somebody who violated you to come back into your life. I need to get that straight before I answer the question. They come back into your life. How so? Because you have the choice of whether you let somebody back in your life or not. So I need to figure out, that doesn't make any sense to me.
What's the goal of the remedy?
I already answered that.
You can answer it again. Let me make sure it's the same person.
Yes. To conquer. First, the inside man. I just answered that. You got to go back and see that. Extensively, I answered that. Did the sister come back and say something?
Did you answer the one about the person who said they tried to emulate you, but they just couldn't do it? You need to get in class.
You got to walk 1,000 miles in my moccasins in order to emulate me.
Oh yeah, someone said is manhood more real than religion?
Absolutely. Religion is man on a descending scale, not in his most perfect state. If God came and said, when God first came, he created man, right? Let's just put it like this, to break it down to you. God created man. What was God's objective? He said, be fruitful and multiply. In other words, I created man to develop families all over the world. I created man to develop families all over the world, not religions. Because man and family is at man's most perfect state. Listen to me. Man and family is at man's most perfect state. Religion is trying to duplicate family, and it can never duplicate family. So man in family is at its most perfect state. Man in religion is at a descending state. It's going down. So religion was never meant family. God and family is what was meant. Right? That's why when you can get a black man in particularly back to understand the value he possessed with his family, then you see all this other stuff going on in our communities dissipate. But right now, don't no brother in the community think about no family. They just want to make some babies.
Someone said, can you elaborate on this topic? Aristotle divides education into liberal and illiberal. Certain subjects are illiberal by nature, namely any occupation. Education must serve the use of leisure.
Yes, I'm going to answer you by saying that the wisdom of man is foolishness unto the Most High. I am not one to elevate the wisdom of man. Whatever knowledge that I've received has been spiritual knowledge that trumps the wisdom of man. So Aristotle would not have any hierarchy in my mind in order to be able to hear him. I listen and I have read a lot of great thinkers, and I love Norman Vincent Peale, James Allen. I love Emerson. There is a lot of people that I've enjoyed reading, right? But again, in the remnant, it is the spiritual information that trumps all worldly man's knowledge, Aristotle and the rest, right? So now, because I feel that way, right? Because my information has conquered systems. My information that God has given me has conquered what others have not been able to conquer, even though they have Ivy League educations, right? So I'm not one to want to break down Aristotle and all that and have this quote unquote intellectual conversation, because I get out of the words and I go into the evidence, right? So when people bring words or philosophy, the scripture says, be careful because of vain philosophies, because knowledge is something that ends. Knowledge is not something that is my primary. It ends. Truth is the only thing that stays still. Listen to me. Knowledge ends. There's an end of knowledge. And the end of knowledge is truth. And so my focus is truth. Everything underneath truth is inconsequential to me. I'm not about to have no back and forth debate and all that. No, bring your words. I'll bring my evidence, my receipts to the table, because that's foundational, right? In words, you could be deceived. Words, and do you understand that Eve was deceived through words? So I'm not interested in words. People's words mean absolutely nothing here. The reason why I wanted to come talk to you is because I'm not just giving you words. You could look over my life and look over the evidence of my life and see the receipts of my words, right? So it's not just words. They're coupled with receipts, right? Because there's a zillion people out there talking words today, sound good, preachers preaching good. Like I always say, you could be good at being a preacher and what?
Bad at being a man.
And bad at being a man. So words mean nothing here. You got to bring some receipts, some evidence. Our people have been tricked and deceived with people's words. Bring the evidence.
How do you take the value out of one belief or idea and give value to another, such as when you talked about minimizing the power of the womb?
When you get the receipts, right, you could talk about a situation, but when you live through a situation, you pull out the evidence because of what you've lived through. That's how you get the value. You've lived through it. A lot of people are only hearing what I've lived through, and now I'm giving you the receipt as evidence of why you can operate like that and what to expect, because I've lived through it and I was able to pull out the receipts, the evidence.
I think they're asking, how do you do that? Like, how do you take value from one place, like something that they currently value now? How do they take the value away from that belief or the idea and give it to another belief idea? In other words, how do they pull out of the indoctrination? And
You got to get in class. You got to get in class, right? If you don't learn what is valuable within your culture, right, you'll always value theirs. If you don't have any other information, see, the Black Panthers and a lot of these great movements were good, right? But they were all neutralized by this system, by COINTELPRO. The Nation of Islam, during COINTELPRO, it is stated that 40% of the people in the nation were informants, right? And this system have utilized many informants to offset movements. They've tried here, but we've welcomed them. Be my guest, right? So what you have to understand is that unless you have other information, it's like somebody says, how do I change this behavior? Well, you can't change the behavior if you don't got any new information. It is the new information that gives you something to pull from, so that when that old situation happens, right, you're pulling from the new information to compete against it, to conquer it, right? But if you don't got no new information, you're going to keep folding. You're going to keep valuing the things that they say value. It is the new information that empowers you, that gives you liberty. But you got to get into class. You can't do it on your own, because 24/7, the indoctrination is selling their culture, selling their way of doing things, because they want to keep you being a slave. They want to keep you going after the money. They want to keep your mind limited to things. They never want you to be free. So they are constantly promoting their culture, their ideas, and then giving you other witnesses to why the way they're doing it works. So they sell you all these things. They're promoting to you because it's to their advantage to promote to you, because they're planning to continue to conquer. White supremacy didn't happen just with violence. It happened with brilliance. They're not stupid. It happened with brilliance, right? And here I am telling you, with all the brilliance they had, with all the advantages they had, they still folded and failed before the information that I had. And that's what I'm trying to share with you. The receipt is the receipt, right? You ain't got to hear it. My life is an example. You ain't got to believe it. There are always people outside the kingdom throwing rocks. What I would like for you to say is to look at them and look at me. And don't just look at me today, look at me over decades. Boy, look good, don't it? And look at them over decades. I think I've said enough.
So I was just sitting down, and a lot of things came up, and the title of the class is called Tricks Have Tools, right? And a certain situation that happened, while I was developing in the information, that I never, I knew what was going on because I have the information, but I never quite understood until this class. So the title of the class is called Tricks Have Tools. And then what the Holy Ghost dropped in my spirit was, if tricks have tools, then man has life. And I'm gonna break that down for you. So I remember I've been the chauffeur. Before I even came here, I was a chauffeur for 10 years, right? Even at one point, I was living out of my car, being a chauffeur, picking up powerful people, actresses, politicians, congressmen, billionaires, people with their hand on the button, right? So I picked up this one guy, has a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money. And his woman, he had a beautiful woman. They live in a nice big house. They have all the trimmings, the cars, the clothes and the jewelry and everything, right? And he sent her out to the car first. So when she got to the car, I didn't know she was coming in. And when she got to the car, I started talking to her. I'm like, I'm sorry I didn't get the door for you. You know, I don't remember quite what I said, but the way how I was speaking and my disposition of the man I am through the information, it was breathing life into her. Right? She was like being moved by what I was saying, those little things. And I'm noticing this, right? So I'm like, okay, I wonder what's going on. So the guy came in the car. Big powerhouse dude. This dude got money. One of the biggest houses I ever seen. He get in the car and all he's talking about is his tools. That's all he's talking about. There's no life. All he was saying was, oh, we're going to go to the best hotel. No. We're going to go to the most expensive hotel. We're going to have the most expensive dinners. We're going to have the most expensive trip here. Everything is about what money can buy. And I can see in her face, her dying inside, like it was bored, right? So when it was time for me to go, because they came in when I wasn't really ready, because they usually text you when they're about to come out, I pulled, you know what Brung gave her life? It was the craziest thing, because I have character. A Spider-Man cell phone holder. When I pulled it out, she was like, I heard a gasp, like, because she's seen color, she's seen flavor, she's seen light, she's seen swag, she's seen the way how I was speaking. And if I didn't have any honor, if I didn't have this information in me, I could have knocked her. No matter how much money he had, I could have had her. You know, so that situation. There was another time, right? And now I want to get into, you know, tricks have tools, but man has life. So I remember when I first started getting in this, I started applying it to my life. I wasn't using it. All right. I applied this information. I live it. All right. And I remember the first female I was taking serious. You know, I loved her. And I'm living, you know, this information in front of her. And it is true, 6 months to a year, you know, that's what it's going to take. Because in the beginning, you're going to, just like Dre said, you're going to be the most abused man in the world. She's going to come with all that stuff, all that indoctrination, all that stuff she learned for that last guy, all that deception. She ain't going to open up to you. There's things she won't tell. It's going to be, man, it was rough. I remember one time, right? This is when I really got tested. Oh yeah, by the way, before I go on, somebody said, this is a good way, I could give you a little bit. Somebody said they grew up with women and you want to learn how to not be so emotional. Take this. You got to get into class. This is just a little bit. One thing about a man is he must stay calm and poised at all times. He must be that. Soon as you get into your emotions and start being like all that crazy stuff, like how women do, she view you just like her. Now you're on her level. This is why women be thinking like, oh, I could do what a man do, because you're doing the same thing. You understand what I'm saying? So just take that. So to bring it back, right? The girl, this is when I was like, this is where guys mess up at. And bruh, Drake, thank you for the information. Man, thank you. Because at that moment, I could have lost value in manhood. I could have denigrated myself. You kind of gotta look at manhood like you're a statue. And every time you go underhanded and anytime you give into your emotions or anything that's unlike a man, the statue starts to chip off, right? And she was getting at me in a way where I was like, wow, but I stayed calm. I stayed poised. You know, I gave her the information. I was like, listen, don't worry about it. All right. Because it was a situation where she wanted me to do something, and I'm not, I can't be running from nobody. That's less of a man to me. So if something's going to happen, let it, it's going to happen. So I told her everything was going to be all right, and don't worry about it. I got the situation. And sure enough, I did. So after enough of doing that, one thing about being a man and building in this information in that 6 months to a year process, she go bubble up. And she go bubble up, right? And you might not see it coming. Because what happened to me the first time, she bubbled up. And I was mad at her. I was mad. I didn't even I was like, why is she acting like this is new? But I was still mad because, I'm being the most abused man in the world, right? But she bubbled up. And then later on in the day, I was like, oh, because of that between that 6 months to a year marker, it happened. Because if you stay in that order, which is keeping your eyes on your God first, being pleasing to him first, putting the value of a man first, she automatically everything falls in line, right? I remember one day, so she already bubbled up, right? And she started to tone down. She's submissive to me. And so I remember we were in her kitchen, right? We were just really having a good time. This was a good time, real intimate moment we were having. And she was cooking for me. And we just kicking it, just doing our thing. And her baby father called, right? And he's on the phone, and he on speakerphone too. And he hear us talking. And then he said, I swear to God, he was like, I never heard you be this submissive before. You ain't never been this submissive to me. That's because of the information. That's because of this game that I'm living. You understand what I'm saying? So this stuff works, all right? And until this day, if I was to reach out to her, call her, she'll tell you first thing she'll say is that I miss you. Because that is always like that. She'll say, I miss you, and you always call at the right time where I need your help. Because the last time I talked to her, it was about, she talked to me. She reached out to me. She needed some help on dealing with somebody who's being petty. And I told her, what I learned is when somebody's being petty, you just got to be big. So I told her, we already know we're giants. But I told her, soon as somebody be petty, you immediately are a giant. Don't even give them that attention. Just be like, you know what? I'm sorry you feel that way. I did do those things before. That was back then when I ain't know no better. This is a whole new woman you're talking to. And then she was like, wow, you know what I'm saying? Along those lines. So tricks have tools, but a man brings life. I brought life into that woman. Now I must talk about how it brought life into me. So you got to remember when I got this information, when it was about to take my life. This is a true story. It really happened. I got it when I was ready to die. All right? Think about that. The building that I had to go through. What was the first thing the Holy Ghost manifested when I got the information? I was sitting in the bathroom, and then first thing Andre said was, before you learn anything, you got to be a man. He said that before you learn anything, you got to be a man. Bruh, so I'm sitting here, and I'm hearing what he's saying. And that's when it hit me. Tricks have tools, but a man brings life. And as soon as I got the information, I was born again. I got life in me. And I've been alive since then. It was like a whole year. Yeah, y'all can clap for that. That's it, because it's a beautiful thing. Bruh, listen. I've been alive since then. I didn't even realize where I was until a year and a half later. I look back, I'm all in the information. I'm so caught up. I'm like, oh man, I forgot I was there. You know what I'm saying? So, that's all I want to say is that nothing's holds more value than the man that you are, than the woman that you are. Put your womanhood first. Put your manhood first. And everything will fall right in place. All praises.
So what's that dude? What's the dude says that you can't play the game without tools? What's his name?
That is Rich Red.
Rich Red. Bruh, let me explain to you what you just said. I said,
And he said tricks are a tool.
huh?
And he said tricks are a tool.
Okay, well, let me explain to you what you said. I told you in the beginning that words have worlds. You said you cannot play the game without tools. So what you're saying is that whoever you are before you have tools is nothing. That it is the tools that make you something. It is the tools by which you are categorized by. So you could have tools and play the game, but if you lose the tools, you're out of the game. So it's not about your manhood, what you possess in your mind and your ability to create anything. See, all things are possible to him that can believe. But now what you have said is that it is not anything that you possess. It is a thing, an item that makes you be anything, is what you're saying. And that's what a lot of you young guys think. That's why every one of you would be susceptible. If I was in the game, but he ain't gonna build. You ain't gonna build. Because see, I create the impossible from inside of me. It is nothing outside of me that creates the impossible. I create it from within inside of me. Your belief, your ability to bring something into manifestation. You don't believe that about yourself. Huh? Man-made tools what?
He's saying you can't play the game without man-made tools.
Well, I'm saying you're not playing the game. You are at the low-hanging fruit stage.
Oh, no. Somebody else said man-made tools.
Yeah.
Responsible, you saying.
You're at the low-hanging fruit stage, right? You need to go back over this class, but see, because sometimes people miss it. Because your confidence, well, who are you? I'm trying to empower you with something. But this information is just not for everybody. You can only see at the level you could see at. And you can't see. Go back to the class, young man. Yeah.
He's just responding to Rich Red.
Yeah, he's responding to him.
B6 has I think is a quick question to answer before you answer.
Hold on, let me talk to La La Love.
Yeah.
You said something about somebody violating you when you were young. Should you forgive them? I've done a class and said forgiveness is a tool. It's a weapon. It is a weapon. Use your weapon. Never let nobody isolate you into an event that happened to you. Use your weapon, your forgiveness. Don't see, the world will try to make you believe that forgiveness is you accepting something of somebody having done something to you. I'm not telling you to use forgiveness like that. I'm telling you to use it as a weapon, right? To separate something. To separate something. But I want from when you deliver it, I need it to be from that space, not as a victim, but as a conqueror. So I'm using it as a weapon. But you got to feel that way inside. You can control it that way. My uncle said something to me, and I just used this weapon on him. My uncle, my very blood uncle, rest in peace, said to me one day, man, I'll and kill you. He didn't like me. He was jealous of me. That's what he said. I shook his hand. I said, man, Unc, man, I'm sorry that you feel that way, man. And when he got sick, I went and visited him in the hospital and all those. Boy, I was using that forgiveness tool as a weapon. I'm trying to tell you, and it never penetrated me. But if you use forgiveness as a victim, it will always stick with you. It'll always stick with you. Don't let it stick with you. As a weapon to cut it off. All right. D?
Real quick,
What?
William from out of Chicago, the one that painted the portrait of
Yeah.
you, he said, how do you start over after surviving cancer and a divorce?
Well, I survived kidney transplant, and I've had many women that were here that are not here no more, right? So every day is a decision for your life. You got to decide every day. Every day you wake up, you have to decide who you're going to be and what you're going to believe. You make that decision every day. So when you wake up and tomorrow morning, you make the decision of what you're going to do and what you're going to be. You got to believe that strong in yourself. You decide. She can't decide. I didn't let dialysis decide for me. I had 2 kidney transplants because my father had a kidney disease that was hereditary called FSGS that impacts African Americans. Alonzo Mourning that played for the Miami Heat, he got it. One of them baseball, another guy that played for the San Antonio Spurs, he had it. It's something that affects African Americans more than any other race. It's called FSGS, and it was hereditary. I got it from my father. Right? I used to tell my dad, I want to be just like you, but dang, Dad, you could have kept that part. So 2 kidney transplants, right? Dove gave me one and I got one from a cadaver, but I don't want to say, how do I start my life over? Because I've had kidney transplant. I decided every day. When I was on dialysis, I'd done my greatest work. It was when I was on dialysis that I passed police accountability. At my weakest physically, I did my greatest work to date. Right? Because I decided that. You have the ability to decide. So then the question, it should not be a question, it should be a statement. You should say, although I have defeated cancer or I had cancer, although I've been divorced, right? See, when you started like that, although, what that does is show strength, right? It shows might and power. Although this happened, this ain't changed nothing. You see what I'm saying? Instead of saying, what do you do when you did this? What do you do when you did this? Because you're giving yourself over to the victim and to, you see what I'm saying? So be careful with that because words have worlds. See how that plays out?
It's like we said earlier, because now he's given the person and the status, the power of that's what made him who he was.
Right.
Right? Instead of valuing himself.
Right.
And keeping something for himself, but he made him.
Right. Right. So you always got to make sure you be careful with your words, right? Because they're creating the world that you're around. Words have worlds. All praises. Is that all, D?
That's it.
All right. Thank you, guys. I'm going to let the men take over from here. Ooh.
So something was just said that I'm gonna share something real quick. There's a lot of emphasis from Rich Red, not to pick at you, man, but there's a lot of emphasis on tools. Men use tools. You can't do this without tools. Me and one of my kids, 2 of my kids' mother are at a major indifference right now, right? And we have been for a while. But when I met her, we started from the ground, from the very bottom, right? I had just gone through a situation in my life and she was just stepping into the beginning of her life. And together, we were able to build something the most of you cats in the game will never achieve, right? And when we parted ways, she was left with more than most of you will ever have, right? But all of that came from the information, right? It came from standing firm in your manhood. It came from listening, believing, and applying. See, you put so much value on a tool, you're gonna mess around and get knocked by a trick because they have more tools, right? They got yachts, mansions, businesses. They can offer financial peace of mind. I saw somebody in the chat say earlier about Naya that, oh no, it wasn't this chat. I think it was another chat in their little thing that they're doing. Somebody said that the only reason that Naya's with Dre is because of the comfort and stability of what he can provide financially, right? That's laughable. That's laughable because you all have seen Naya up here. You've seen my Aunt Dove up here. You've seen my women up here. These women go get an athlete somewhere if that was the case. They can go get a billionaire off their looks if that was the case, right? If you think that they are here in the lives of these men or any of these men have women in their lives because of financial stability, you're crazy. There are so many, especially where we're at here in Seattle, there are so many millionaires and billionaires out here, it's not even funny. These women are gorgeous, they're sharp, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, they have a lot to offer. They can really go out there and have any worldly male they want to, but they'll be very empty inside, right? And I don't want to speak for y'all, but is that about accurate? Okay. Tricks have tools. And the real question is, what have you done to be qualified, right? To even speak on the subject of man, to even speak on the subject of culture. What receipts do you have in your life? What have you produced in your life? If you can only look at what you've produced for yourself, if you can only stand up and say, I've done X, Y, and Z, I've got a house, I've got a car, I've got business, I got Benzes, and nobody can look at the people around you and see how you've impacted the people around you, you really haven't done much. You haven't done much. One thing I can appreciate about every man here is that no one here is petty. Not even a little bit. When it comes to helping and showing love and showing up, heck, just about every man up here and some back there just helped me move the whole house. My nephew flew all the way across the country to help me move a whole house. Just me and him, and then we got here, and all the loved ones pulled up, man, and unloaded and moved everything in the storage in 3 hours. Something that would have took me 2 days to do by myself. Without a question, with a good attitude, was honored to do it, right? And I feel the love in that because that lets me know that those are the kind of people I have in my life from what I've produced in my life, for me to be chosen to be here in this space now, right? What do your fruits produce? Do you even have any fruits? Or are you only worried about tools, right? The wrong tools at that, the worldly tools. Proverbs 11, 10 through 12 says, when it goes well with the uncompromisingly righteous, the city rejoices. But when the wicked perish, there are shouts of joy. 11 says, by the blessing of the influence of the upright in God's favor, because of them, the whole city is exalted. So in other words, when the righteous are blessed, the whole city is exalted. The overflow is tremendous. It touches everyone, right? And it's not just an overflow of material things. The spiritual overflow, the overflow of love, the overflow of character, the covering that comes with somebody operating to be pleasing to their God, a man that's pleasing to their God, a woman that's pleasing to their God. It covers so much, right? It covers people that aren't even here in the remnant. Extended family members that we have that are on the other side of the planet have got covering just because the Most High loves what we love, right? So he gives that grace. He extends us that in our lives. I know that Voss here done covered so many areas, not just his kids, but his kids' moms, his mom. He done covered brothers. I seen his brother in the chat, you know what I'm saying, just releasing that thing, giving him the freedom to be freed up from what he's all the way in Arizona. His brother's in Arizona and be in the chat just getting what he need to get off his chest from his covering, right? His kids look amazing. Right, I'm staring at one of them behind the camera right now. He's one of our technical advisors, right? He'd be talking mess too. All the confidence in the world with his big head. But he's standing, right? His daughter's sitting right here watching class, and I'm pretty sure she was just doing her homework, right? Staying up on top of things, taking care of her business. Got little girls at school hating on her, mad, because she done came out here conquering, taking over, making space, right? over here, manhood is measured by success. Manhood is not measured by success or material gain, but rather by those who you impact and bless around you. I was talking to Unc not too long ago, and he was talking to me. He was telling me that he was proud of me for something. And I've thought about this before, but when he was breaking it down to me, it hit me a little different this time. And he was talking about the choice that I've made in my life, right, to be here when I could go make something happen, when I can go get me some more worldly tools, right? And the Most High called me out of all of that to come here and do His will, not mine, but His. He gave me a season to do what I want to do, right? And a long one at that too. And many benefited from it, including some of the people that's out there talking mess online right now. They benefited heavily from it. Their life was blessed for it. And some of them grew up to be spoiled little brats, spoiled little rich kids, raised in the burb, didn't have to do nothing, work. All they had to do was go to school, take care of their business. They couldn't even do that, right? And that's okay, because if I had to do it again, I would do it all the same. I would still help. I would still give. I would still love. I would still show that, extend my hand out and be the giving, loving person that He put me here to be. Now, have I always been perfect? No. No, I have not. Have I messed up in my life? More than all of you probably put together in this chat, right? But the thing that's always saved me in my life that I come to realize is the correction of my mistakes, the bounce back. See, I have had women mad at me. Like I said, me and my kid's mom are in indifference right now. But the covering that I've had over my life, because I've always operated with her and every other woman in my life fairly, right? There was never a situation where I parted ways with someone and wanted to see them doing bad. Never in my life. As a matter of fact, so much to the point that I would let them have everything when we parted ways, because I wasn't attached to the material. My manhood being intact means more than anything to me. And that right there is what makes a remnant man so different, so special. It makes him, gives him the ability to impact those around him, right? Because he elevates the man to be pleasing to his God above any material thing that could ever be brought forth to you in the world. It removes the temptation to compromise, right? When you take this thing serious, when this is about your life, when your whole life is surrounded and focused on being that man, it takes away all of that temptation, right? Not saying that things aren't there, but it gives you the fortitude in your life not to be a sucker to the system, man. See, a lot of us have gotten to the streets because we want to have a better life, right? I did. But some of us got into the streets because we just wanted a bunch of material things. And there's not really any covering there when you value the material over the man. There's not any covering at all. You're susceptible to anything happening to you. So the scripture says, and I'm gonna paraphrase, that it is easier for a camel to gallop through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to make it into heaven. Because when the Most High comes and calls you to His assignment and tells you to leave everything behind, most people ain't prepared to do that. They too focused on the tools. They don't even know what the real tool is. They don't understand that if the Most High is calling on you in the first place, you got something more valuable to make Him even give you that kind of attention to begin with, to call you to do His will. You've got something far more valuable than all the assets in your life, right? But you can't see it. You can't see it because you have placed your value in things, right? We had a class not just the other day, right, that said, we don't like humans, right? But we love people. But we love people, right? Because when you're dealing with a person, not just mankind, not just a human, but when you're dealing with a person that values this information, that puts forth every effort in their life every day to stand up and be a man of character and principle to be pleasing to their God, or a woman of the same to be pleasing to their God, it makes you have a different kind of love for them. It brings about an appreciation. It brings about a continual value. When you see in people that won't change, that won't bow down, that won't sit down, that can't be compromised, that can't be bought. When things aren't going their way, they're ready to throw in the towel. I've experienced this a lot in my life. I've seen a lot of people come thinking, man, I'm ride or die to the end. Well, I guess their end was somewhere back there because they ain't here no more. Right? And I'm talking about before the remnant. There's been people in the remnant that have reached their end too. They reached their breaking point. Right? They breaking point of not having the material things that they originally came for. They put on a good show for a while. They did. But this is about serving our God. This here is about having the fortitude to rise above all conditions, good ones and bad ones, because the enemy comes at you in both. He comes at you in both. He'll come through your loved ones. He'll come through your women. I remember Voss said one time that the enemy was trying to get him to not like me. You know what I'm saying? He'll try you. He'll try you. I'm not an easy person to be around, nor am I an easy man for a woman to be with, right? Because my value doesn't lie in material possessions. I like things to be a certain way in my life because that's how the Most High has blessed me to be. He's gave me that dominion in my life. And most of you don't know to go left, right, up, down, straight, back. You just don't know because you have no dominion whatsoever because you don't even understand what manhood is.
He still try.
He do sometimes.
My love for you and God is greater than his suggestions.
Say that again?
I say he still try, but my love for God and yourself is greater than his suggestions.
That's right. You know, and the enemy be at all of us around here because he know what time it is. See, some of y'all, he don't even mess with out there because he know he got you already. He know he got you. You in his pocket. You done chose up with the enemy. You done tricked off, right? You is, I ain't gonna say it because I don't want to do no push-ups, but you his, okay? You his. And over here, we keep the enemy under our foot. It don't matter what you say, you can feel how you want to feel, but if your life hasn't produced any receipts to show anything other than just talking, than just words, and your emotions are always at the forefront, and you think that it's just an expression, you're just expressing yourself, if that's what you want to label it as, that's fine. Express away. Get your little girl on, because that's what y'all good at doing. These are seasoned men around here. And this information, they understand that we come to build on the foundation. See, even in the streets, I didn't just take off. I built a foundation first. And some of my partners, they didn't get it because they was always after the money. And I'm building foundational things in my life, in my women's lives. We're building up the infrastructure. And that's what's going on here. Some people couldn't even get through the infrastructure phase because they don't understand about building. And that's why they're not here. The Most High allows everything to go the way he wants it to go to trim off the fat. My nephew told me that someone told him that, what'd you say, take the meat, leave the bone? Someone told him, take the meat, leave the bone, right? We come for everything. We come for everything. We're not leaving nothing behind. We're not leaving anyone behind, no person, nothing, anything that's out there. We come to get everything that's deserved. Everything. Everything that's been stripped away from our people. Everything that's been stripped away from the culture. Everything that they try to indoctrinate us with. Everything they try to implant in our mind. Everything that they try to tear our women down with. Everything they try to tear our men down with. Everything they try to push our kids out into the system with, into prisons and into these foster care systems, calling parents unfit because we don't do things the way the world says we should do things, right? We do things according to how our Most High God calls us to do these things. We raise our kids to be pleasing to him, not to the world. If you don't like it, Stay over there. Stay over there. Because these are our people. I saw someone in the chat say they looking, the remnant's falling apart. They're looking slim over there, right? It's because we got loved ones in here handling their business right now. Handling their business right now. Some of them you might not see up here because they've taken a position and they standing on it strong. And they doing it strong enough so that we can be standing up here talking right now. Because we protect what's ours. Understand that. This ain't no turn of the cheek. This ain't no turn of the cheek. This ain't Christianity. It's not. We down and serious about ours. And understand that y'all been getting light work for real. You really have. People been releasing their measures, but y'all really been getting light work. And I hope it stays that way. We don't want no smoke. We don't want no problems with you, right? But understand this. If you cross that threshold, and not at our hands, this is the beautiful part about it, not even at our hands, but if you cross that threshold, somebody else will be raising your kids. Somebody else will be raising your kids. Because our Most High God ain't playing about us. If you want to come find out the hard way, that's on you. If you come in love and you want some information so you can elevate your life, we here. We here to give it, and we give it wholeheartedly, right? But anything less than that, man, go on over there and play in traffic.
Well, one thing that comes to mind after hearing everything that was said tonight, I think about. I'm sorry. I think about when Dre was talking about when his girls came home and she said that she didn't have any money, and he said, "Well, it's not about the money; it's about the relationship." And that's one of the things I've been thinking about, just listening to what everybody's been saying. Like, relationships can't be built on money, like anything like materialistic. The Bible says wealth or what does it say? Money is a defense and wisdom is a defense. But wisdom gives you life. And like my loved one here was saying, he was saying he was talking to the girl in the limousine or whatever. He was giving her life. And you can't depend on materialistic things to give you that life. And I was just going over in my mind as I'm just listening to how everybody's just breaking down the just the materialistic part of life and the inside. So you have to get your life from something other than materials. All right, man. Yeah, I'm gonna make this quick. I'm not a most gifted speaker, but I'm gonna give you the real.
You are gifted, Marshall.
I don't know where to begin.
Get down, man.
You gifted, man. You good.
And favored.
Where the camera? Right here?
Yep.
Okay. I want to talk to the young dudes out there talking about this tools and this tricking thing. There was an award for Trick of the Year. I was that guy. When I was in that indoctrination, it was dark, a lot of deficiencies. Anything I tried to plant, it was laborious, and I couldn't produce anything. Only thing I was producing was a world of technology. The biggest trick that I caused, or the biggest trick
that I believe it wasn't me exchanging money. It was me believing the value of the womb was so valuable that was the trick. And in that space, I lost all completion. The manhood, I siphoned the manhood. The manhood was siphoned. It wasn't no masculinity. It wasn't no integrity. It wasn't no conquering. It was a very weak position. And I just want you to know, I went from being conquered to the conqueror. Thank you. So let me jump on that side, because I know both worlds, from that tricking side and this conquering side. And this conquering side is a much better position. And my last testimony, 2 testimonies ago, I told you I was in jail facing 15 years. And I said I had to create myself out of this situation. It wasn't no tools. It wasn't no big money. It wasn't none like that. I had to use a PD, a public defender lawyer who just graduated from law school. And I was like, man, Most High, why you give me this lawyer? You know what I'm saying? What's going on? You know what I'm saying? So let me tell you a story. There was a guy who was bragging. He said he just dropped $100,000 on a lawyer. So I'm like, he's bragging like, yeah, man, I just dropped 100 stacks, you know what I'm saying? Blah, blah, blah. So I'm listening to this guy. I'm like, oh man, he finna get out this situation, you know what I'm saying? He got the tools, you know what I'm saying? So me and him going to court the same day. So we go downstairs, they put us in this bullpen. So he in there, he talking to all this guys, yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? My lawyer, he's so and so, you know what I'm saying? I just dropped 100,000. So we go in the courtroom. So I'm sitting there on the bench, waiting my turn. He go first, and his lawyer, he got the big suit and all that, you know what I mean? Talking these flossy words and these lofty words and all that. And to make a long story short, the man got 30 years. He just paid 100,000. Here I am. I'll go to court with a public defender who just got out of law school, and I beat my case. So I just want you to know those tools don't mean nothing, man. That money, all that, materialistic apparatus you talking about, that doesn't mean anything. If you don't have this information is going to put you in a position to conquer. I guarantee you. I'm a living witness to this. So therefore, go in these classes, get this information. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna get downloads on how to move in this life. It's gonna be much better to have this information in any area of your life, because the enemy's out there, and one day you might be in a position that you're gonna need this information, and without this information, your tool is not gonna save you. That's all I got.
One thing real quick. You're right. Just because you got game doesn't mean that you have manhood, right? But I want you to understand something, just for clarity real quick. This game is the information of manhood. See, game, per Mel Taylor, right, is nothing but information with the flair. It's knowledge with the flair, right? So the game that we give is the game of being a man. It's the knowledge of being a man. See, that's what we're giving out here, right? The knowledge of manhood. That's what's lacking in the world. This isn't slick talk. See, game is not slick talk to us. That's being deceitful. That's being underhanded. That's getting over on somebody. This game here is passed on with value, love, care, and concern from one to the next who shows themselves a man to be deserving of it. This is not something that's just given out to anybody. I remember when my uncle started these classes. I thought he was crazy at first. I did. I said, Uncle, what you doing? He said, it's that time, nephew. I'm like, time for what? Wait, this ain't what, you know what I'm saying, what we do. You get online, he talking, but I could see it immediately. I could see how much I already knew through my personal experience, but I could see when he got in here talking to all the people that flooded in, how much it was needed to share this out here in the world. So I just want to let you know that this game right here, this is the knowledge of manhood, period. Come on.
Come on in, men. Just want to let you see my men around here. Don't think that you forgot. Yeah, just understand. Come around here playing around here, partner. Yeah, don't come around here playing around. We are not Christians around here, man. Yeah, ain't nobody no Christians around here. Don't come around here playing around. We want peace from everybody, right? But don't come into our domain with no drama at whatsoever, all right? I just wanted to let you see my men here as a deterrent. Don't come on, don't do it. We ain't not playing. See my men?
At all.
Yeah, here they are.
What them squares thought?
That's what they thought. All right, all praises.
Huh? Yeah, close it out. Come here, son. Stay right there with me. All right, nephew. So all praises to my son and his mother. They finally here. They out here for good. You out here for good, son?
Yes.
Yes? You want speech? No? No, not yet? Next time. So we are here every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Pacific time, right here. And this is a one part, I think, of 3, right? So if you want the rest, you got to come back and get it. We're also on YouTube Monday and Friday. Hold on one second, y'all. Hold on one second. We're also here on Monday and Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific time on YouTube. We are on Instagram, 7 p.m. Pacific time, and on Tuesdays. And on Thursdays, you can catch us on OnlyFans at 7 p.m. Pacific time. Come get some real game.